What's your scariest work experience? Mine would most definitely be what happened today at work. I work at Subway and it was pretty much dead at about 8 a.m. There was an older man who came in, about 6 feet 4 inches 250 pounds, and he looked about 40 or so. He seemed very shady when I first said hi to him. He walked up to the counter and I asked, "What can I get you today, sir?" He replied with, "I want a bag of money," in the most serious tone. Now I've had people come in and joke around by saying they want $1 million, and normally we just laugh about it. So I chuckled a little, but his facial expression didn't change. So I asked again, "What can I get you, sir?" And he asked for the money again with that stern look. At this point I'm getting extremely nervous because he seems very serious. 30 seconds of silence went by that seemed like it took 5 minutes. He asked again for a bag of money and I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that, sir. Would you like something to eat?" He just stared at me a little longer, never changing his facial expressions. Finally he decided he wanted a sandwich, but never lost the stern expression on his face. I still don't know if was actually being serious about wanting to rob me or if it was all a joke that he never let me know of. It scared the piss out of me nonetheless. TLDR, man tried to rob me, I made him a sandwich. I am on disability right now due to my scariest work experience. I was roofer by trade, and I had been working 7 days a week, 10 to 12-hour days. For 3 months. Working on a Sunday, I was finishing the last bit of work for a job at the peak of a roof, when some kids came by. They asked if they could go inside the home to talk to the homeowner. I said no very politely. They then pleaded to at least take pictures of the heritage home I was working on for their school project. Feeling sorry for them, I said okay, fine, but no pictures of the construction, just be quick and careful. Right afterwards they walked right below where I was working to take a picture. This is when all hell broke loose. Just then my nail gun slipped and started sliding from the peak of the roof towards the kids. It was gaining speed quick and I was shouting for them to run, move, get the fiach out of the way. They didn't, probably didn't even know what was about to drop on them. So I chased it. I fed myself tons of slack on my lifeline chasing this thing just to grab it as it was about to fall off. I was able to toss the gun in a completely different direction. But with all the momentum I had, there was no stopping me from going off the edge. And so much slack on my lifeline, so there was nothing to keep me from hitting the ground. I fell 15 feet onto a staircase, shattering my left heel when I landed. The kids moved when they saw me in the air, that much I remember afterwards. This is the scariest thing that has happened to me. Many close calls in all sorts of jobs I have had, but in this particular situation, knowing this is going to hurt like hell is almost indescribable. Surgery went well, 4 months into recovery now. Reddit helps with passing the time, tongue sticking out. I was working in a mall at a burger joint when I looked up and saw a guy coming out of the men's room nearby holding a bloody butcher's knife. The man calmly walked through the food court and out the mall exit as my manager and I both looked at each other, not believing what we saw. I swear 1 minute later, as we're trying to call security, 15 cops ran by with guns drawn. Turns out the man had stabbed someone to death in the bathroom. The cops were there so fast because the same man had violently assaulted someone else the day before and escaped. he was recognized by a witness prior to going into the bathroom. TLDR, saw aftermath of a homicide while flipping burgers in a mall. I used to work in a dementia ward. I been bitten, peed on, had things thrown at me and attacked by a guy who was hallucinating. But the scariest thing was when one of the electric fireplaces caught fire and 2 of the men in the ward locked their doors. The time between calling 911 and the firemen getting those 2 outside was terrifying. I work at an electronic buyback store. One day a customer brought by a new 20-inch LCD monitor in the box. I made an offer and he was more than willing to sell me his product. We normally check all items to make sure they work before we pay out for them, so I decided I'd open the box and take a look inside. As soon as I open the box, over 100 cockroaches come crawling out of it and all over my counter. It took me a good couple seconds to realize what exactly was coming out of the box, but it was both scary and gross. TLDR, someone opened a box full of cockroaches at my store. I used to work with burrowing owls. We'd check nests with a long flexible camera, and a visor over our eyes. Well, one day I head into this field, kneel down, put the visor on, check the nest, takes about 15 minutes. I stretch up and take the visor off. About 50 cows are in a circle 360 degrees around me, staring at me with their cold, dead eyes. I have no idea how I didn't feel them walking over. They started to get nervous and excited as I packed up my stuff, and parted so I could see one very pissed off bull at the back of the herd. I did my very best calm speed walk out of there. TLDR, I hate cows with a fiery passion. TLDR, skid stacked 40 to 50 meters high, 130 feet, full of cardboard boxes of toilet paper almost killed me / paralyzed me. I worked for a company with several different types of stores. My job was to attend each of them and handle shipping / stock. Whenever a problem arose around the safety hazards of a store, I would try talking to the head company officials, and they said to take it up with that specific store manager. The store managers would say they won't do a damn thing to stop cutting corners until the big daddy company guys said so. It was a shitty cycle, nothing ever got done about it. Anyways, one day at one of the worst stores for cutting corners, they were asking us to pull stock from the back and shuffle everything around. It was a very stupid request, as they were just trying to keep us busy. I had to pull some stock that was behind a skid full of boxed toilet paper. Only the base of the skid had been wrapped, and barely. When I asked a co-worker, he said they ran out of wrapping and the managers refused to buy more. I was debating whether to move things around it until said asshole manager stormed in and demanded to know why the skid hadn't been pulled yet. She told me that everything would be fine and to stop worrying about worst case scenarios, that she had a schedule to keep blah blah blah. I pulled the skid back. Mind you, the pallet jacks we were using to move these had not been replaced for about 16 to 20 years. The one I picked was especially defective, in that every so often the spring would suddenly give and lower to the ground. This happened and caused just a tiny bit of abrupt momentum to build that the whole thing came crashing down on me. All I heard was the tiniest crunch of cardboard, like crushing a Starbucks cup, and I knew that was it. This was skid after skid of cardboard boxes full of toilet paper stacked about 40 to 50 meters high, about 130 feet. 3/4 way to the ceiling. I knew if a box corner hit my neck from that height, I was done, or if a pallet decided to land anywhere near me, I may not walk for a long time. I bent down and covered my neck/head with my arms and just hoped for the best. Killed by toilet paper wouldn't make for a very cool epitaph, but this may have been it. Luckily, the top boxes that fell first buried me before the pallets could strike any part of my body. It was very scary and quite painful, and I was stuck for about 45 minutes while 2 of my co-workers got me out, but I'm alive. I quit working there due to the whole company having a bullshit level of over 9,000. The store manager threatened to sue me if I thought about getting workers' compensation, due to it being my voluntary choice to work. I don't even know if the Jackie Chan WTF face covers my level of WTF. I was volunteering at the time, but I figure it counts. I was riding my bike on Canal Street in New Orleans at about 9 p.m. when I got a flat tire. I hopped off and was in the process of fixing it when some guy came up to me and asked me what I was doing. I explained my situation without really looking at him. Then I looked at him. He had what appeared to be a stab wound in one shoulder and a wrench in his opposite hand. I asked him if he needed any help with the shoulder and whatnot. He politely declined and pointed across the street and told me that the gas station over there had an air pump. Then he walked away. Edit. He had a wrench in his hand, not his shoulder. Edit 2. Actual work-wise. I worked at an ice rink for a couple years. So this lady crashed and passed out, head bleeding on the ice. It took a while for an ambulance to get there and we couldn't move her due to the head/neck injury. By the time the paramedics got there, her hair had frozen to the ice, so it took us a while to get her loose. She was okay, so happy ending there. But it took about 7 passes with the Zamboni to get the ice fixed though. This was a volunteer job I had a while back. The giant Pacific octopus had refused food for a few days, so I was told to bring up a variety of stuff and see if I could get him to eat. I went up to his tank, which was in an isolated area, and grabbed some food and waved it around in front of his cave. He immediately shot out, grabbed the thing I was using to feed him, a plastic grabber that you could use to pick up trash, and then wound a couple arms around my arm. He then latched onto a rock in his tank and yanked me hard, so that I was doubled over the tank wall and unable to move. I had played with octopuses before, and while they often held onto me with a tentacle, they weren't hard to remove, but I could not get this guy to release me. I struggled and managed to get one arm off, but he quickly twisted another around my arm. He was slowly pulling my hand closer to his mouth, which was really freaking me out. I kept shoving food at him, fortunately I had brought a lot, and curling my hand around away from him as much as I could, but I was terrified that my hand was going to get chomped on with his beak. It wouldn't have killed me, but they are venomous and octopus bites can be pretty nasty, even from small ones. His beak was pretty big. Here's a picture of somebody holding one. Eventually he relaxed enough to where I could lift him out of the water a bit. He still had a couple of arms wrapped around my arm, and he didn't care much for that, so he let go and went back into his cave. It left me with about 55 bruises on my arm from his tentacles. TLDR, octopus grabbed me. Was worried he'd bite me.